How's it going, everyone? It is Prashan here, and I have my hat back on, and we have Tucker here. How's it going, Tucker?
Hey, yo, it is great to be back, Prashan. We both have new looks, I guess you would say, and we got the new season, and I am so excited. This new season just feels like we have a brand new life to Snap. And I feel like there's just so much more potential, especially with all the enablers we're gonna have with Activate, and everything. Which, if you guys don't really know how Activate works, Prashan actually just put out a new video on the Marvel Snap channel where he explains it very thoroughly to help you guys really prep for Symbiote Spider-Man right here and for the new cards we have coming out later this season.
Yeah, and for that video, I couldn't wear a hat because I didn't want Marvel to strike that video down. So, yeah, hat's back on. And Tucker recently moved, so he has a whole new space and
hmm
place where he calls home. Welcome to Florida.
Yeah, Florida. We're in Florida, but we're in different time zones, so that's a little interesting. But it's no biggie. We make it work because P&T, we get it done.
Oh man, PNT. That's the first time you said that. Oh man. So we have Symbiote Spider-Man here. First card in Marvel Snap with Activate. Pretty soon there should be more. They talked about Black Swan. They talked about Hell Cow as well. But this card here, merge your lowest cost card here with this. Copy its text like it just revealed. So there's a lot of spicy stuff going on with this card. I think people already gravitated to like the Galactus stuff. The
hmm
video I made for Snap, I tried to like see what it could do, like try to make two Emily blades and stuff like that. Try to see if it worked with Negasonic. But overall, I think this is a pretty good card. I feel like it's like a one-time Wong that you could just like use like the on reveal all over again. So how do you feel about this card? What's your thoughts and feelings on it?
I really like this card. I think this really enables you to do some mind games and it opens up kind of like combo decks a little bit more. But I don't think it's just because it's Symbiote Spider-Man. I think it's just the activate function itself really enables you to kind of have that extra kind of either skill, because it's going to take skill to really learn like the mechanics on like when to activate, the ordering of your cards and stuff. So I think this is something that literally like it brought life back to Snap. I really like Symbiote Spider-Man as well. I think he's pretty flexible, even at a 4 cost. Just what is it going to swap with? I think you might be in a tricky spot just with the card overall because there's so much clog and so much junk. Your combos do get really kind of altered, I would say, if you're not having priority when you're trying to activate because it hits the lowest cost card, so it would hit the rock or it hit the Widow's Kiss. But more often than not, I've hit so many clips with this card already that I really enjoy it as like a clip enthusiast too, and like it does win you games because like people are playing so much Alioth and stuff right now too. You don't have to worry about Alioth if you have this down because you get to do what you were trying to do anyways. But it feels like a solid card. It may not be the best card released this season or the best card released this week, even, but it feels really good.
Yeah, it's definitely refreshing to see this card come into Snap.
hmm
And it reminds me why Zabu got changed, because if there was this was on the board on 3, it would be insane because it's just a ticking time bomb just sitting there on the board. And then Clog is king right now, especially
hmm
with this card. As soon as I see it on the board, I'm hitting it with a Widow's Kiss. I'm using debris to put a rock over there. I don't want them to Galactus me. Or like as soon as you see Symbiote Spider-Man on 4 and you see Forge on 5, like you already know what's gonna happen. So you might as
hmm
well stop it before it happens. Or if you see like the Black Panther, that's the one thing about it, is that like it's pretty telegraphed most of the times on what you can
hmm
see happen with this card. But overall, I think it's pretty good. And then the second card we got was Silver Sable on reveal, steal 2 power from the top of your opponent's decks. I think this is a pretty good card, and pretty much like I wouldn't say a staple in bounce, but I think it feels good in bounce right now.
Yeah, I think it feels incredible in bounce. And I think what makes this card so good, yes, maybe only play it one time, it's a 1-3. But depending on what your opponent hits, it's also gaining power and it's like an Iceman. It's like an Iceman, Celine, and Cassandra Nova all in one because it gains power your opponent might not play this card, or it gets nuked for 2 of its power as well. So it doesn't have that going into it, which can also win you games. And if you are bouncing this card, the value you can get from making 2 cards in your opponent's hand dead cards, or 2 cards just lose power, just feels really good. This is a 1/5. If they play cards out, like it's a 1/5. I say if you bounce it again, they play cards out. It's a 1/7. If you somehow get to bounce it again, they play cards out. It's a 1/9. So like the potential you can do with this card just to throw off your opponent's game is really good, and you get to do this on turn 1. The only downside is that you have to be on a location that you can actually play an on reveal, and there's no Cosmo. So it's like pretty much always a 1/3, and 1/3 is a very solid stat line for 1-drops, because if you think of the 1/3s like Blade and 0, you actually have to discard a card or remove an ability to get to 1/3, whereas this one, all you have to do is play it to get to 1/3.
Yeah, she's a pretty solid card, I think. Especially now, there's no Shadow King. Like, Symbiote Spider-Man and Silver Sable both are affected by Shadow King, and there's not even one in sight. And I don't even think there's one in the decks we talk about today at all either. So it's like a free for all offensive. So today is going to be a little bit different. I think we're going to throw away, I guess, technically the top decks because they're all the same decks for the past like 2 months for the most part, like Darkhawk and Surfer, and that's pretty much it. And then Airsham too. Airsham has slowly faded away. So let's go right into this deck here. Mill. So Mill is back, I believe, just because the lack of Airsham. This is one I made. It's a little bit spicy of the fact that I have Cersei in this deck because Cersei is here to basically get rid of the junk that you pulled over to your side, especially with like the Yondu or the Zemo, whatever you get from Zemo. Like Cable is pretty clutch too because you pull something good. Sometimes like I snap after Cable and they just retreat. Like I get this is not a deck that you can get a lot of cubes from unless it's like late in the game. You just have to depend on when you snap. But if I snap early game, more than likely they retreat. So I try not to snap. That way I could get my like 2 cubes. So what do you think about Mill so far, Tucker?
I'm a very avid mill enjoyer, so like I'm glad to see Airsham die down, so we can get back to the roots of just playing mill. I like the Symbiote Spider-Man in this as well because you can Gladiator, Symbiote Spider-Man, and then Gladiator again, and it's a 14 power Gladiator, so you pretty much kill everything. And then like what's really cool about this list too is you Yondu to kind of destroy a card, remove it from their deck. You can then Silver Sable to make it so their next card they draw is just either not playable. It's also kind of like a mill. You have Red Guardian for all the Patriots and Thenas and stuff that's going around right now. Zemo, you're probably playing later in the game too, unless you get some really cool draws, like you said, like with Yondu or Cable on curve. Then you could play Zemo to get some better value. But like I feel like Mill is definitely gonna be back in a good spot in the meta because you don't have 24 cards you have to go through like with Airsham, and like you literally you're snapping into a lot of these plays to try and maximize your cubes because like what Prashant said, you're gonna get a lot of people retreating and stuff too because they don't have their cards. But if you're snapping into some of these conditions, you can at least guarantee you get 2. And getting 2 is pretty much like winning a normal game, which is really good. That's a really good cube equity. So it's just, yeah, min maxing and then just literally making it so they can't play any cards.
Yeah, pretty much. And I love it. I love that Mill is back. And let's go into your deck here. Is this the highlight deck of Tucker's?
Yeah, this is the highlight deck. It's pretty much the standard Phoenix Force list you guys have seen. Just swapped out Iron Lad, or if you were running Hulk Link, you put in Symbiote Spider-Man, and it gives you just a lot of alternate lines. You can do your normal destroy stuff, you can do your Phoenix Force stuff, or you literally can Symbiote Spider-Man onto Nimrod Zola. You just play 3 cards, win the game. It's like you're playing Tribunal, but you don't, of course, get as big maybe as Tribunal. But it feels really good, especially in like an Airsham heavy kind of, or not Airsham heavy, in a Goliath heavy situation. You're able to get yourself out of Goliath lanes with the Ghost Spider as a tech, or you can just activate your destroy cards with Symbiote Spider-Man again. This has been my favorite usage of Symbiote Spider-Man because there's so many different ways you can do it, and you don't really care sometimes if there is like a Cosmo or stuff. You're just trying to get big power, and you're moving cards everywhere else. And Phoenix Force is just, even though there's so much clog and everything right now, Phoenix Force still feels good. Snapping into Phoenix Force is what you have to do, because if you don't snap into your Phoenix Force, or if you have the Phoenix Force combos, you're only going to get 1 cube. And you just got to maximize the cube equity, like we were talking about with Mill. And I think that's something we've talked about on this channel a lot, is like snapping when you have your win conditions. So you can at least guarantee you get 2 cubes, because that's going to just help you climb further and further. One is good, winning is good, but you always want to maximize your wins and minimize your losses.
Yeah, for sure. And I suck with Phoenix Force, so I have nothing to say. You said it all. So let's go into the Sable Bounce list. This is pretty cool, especially when you have Hood, when you can get multiple demons. You have Nico that could turn the Hood into a demon. You have Silver Sable. And then, of course, like you could blitz them on the final turn with a bunch of 1-drops after playing Falcon or Beast, and then hit them with the Hit Monkey. And then Bishop takes tons of value too, just by all the drops. And then Wiccan allows you to play all these cards too, like blitz them on the final turn. So awesome deck. It feels good that Bounce is back, even though Beast got nerfed. It's crazy to think like Beast is one of the higher cost cards in this deck, and he's like a 3-drop, and Wiccan's like the highest cost, and he's a 4, so very low to the ground. Citadel? What is that one? That's the only location you pretty much can't play into. Besides that, you're good.
Crimson Cosmos.
Yeah, no, Crimson Cosmos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only. Well, Wiccan's the only card that fits in there. Besides that,
Yep.
you have to do the best you can with 2 locations. But yeah, this is a pretty solid bounce deck.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is you're getting a lot of collector value. Even if you are getting your board space clogged and stuff too, you have Falcon to bounce back some of these rocks, some of the demons your opponent gave you, or you Beast to kind of alleviate space. Bounce is definitely one of those harder shells to play, because you have to, kind of think multiple turns ahead, because I'm going to do this to set up that kind of thing. But like, you're using Silver Sable in this list. Silver Sable is some good power to get alongside like Hawkeye and everything. And then you have Kate Bishop, so you can clog your opponents or have some other arrows for your own. And when Toxic comes out, man, Bounce is just going to go crazy.
Bounce is definitely gonna be nuts. And let's see here, what other deck we have. We have good old Dara G-Man. So we've had plenty of lists that have been going around with G-Man, and this is one of the better ones. I remember seeing the tweet. He said he made Infinite in 3 hours with this deck. There's so many lines you could play with it. You could go like the White Tiger route if you don't have Galactus, or you could go Galactus, or you could go Black Panther Zola. Like you could go like Wong Panther Zola. Like there's so many things you could do with this deck, which is pretty cool. And then especially you have the ramp with Psylocke. You have magic to extend the game, and that way you could get the cards that you need. And yeah, and Iron Lad is pretty good too in this deck too. Was Iron Lad in this deck?
I think Iron Lad was in the deck.
Okay,
Or he may have updated it.
Just making sure. I was like, I thought I saw a different version. But yeah, Iron Lad 2 has good value, especially if it hits Symbiote Spider-Man. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this deck, like, I think what we forget about often than not, White Tiger is a good card. So, like, I think White Tiger, honestly, you might not have it as a primary win con in this, but White Tiger is actually sneaky good. Getting 8 power to another side of the board you may not be able to reach. The Black Panther, Galactus stuff is pretty telegraphed, so you know what's kind of coming. And this list right here was so good that people started running Cosmo again. Like, you see Cosmo peaked more in the meta. Juggernaut was already in a lot of spots, but now Juggernaut's in a lot of places too. Like, if you guys have seen Buttstack, like, there's a lot of just counters to this list because of how good it was. And I think that's the thing too, like with Symbiote Spider-Man, people think you're going to be doing the same thing every single time, but you can be sneaky with it and not activate it when you think it's going to activate. And you can just get some good value. And you have power going across the board with Ironheart, with White Tiger, Black Panther, like Forge to get stuff huge too. Like, it's going to be just interesting to see how this card continues to evolve. But it's a very solid list. You know, Dara cooks, and like this really felt like an off-meta cook. So it was really cool to see him hit Infinite in 3 hours with it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see Galactus get some love and shine. Everyone's like, buff Galactus, but We got a good old symbiote Spider-Man to finish people off. Like it's pretty funny too, because like you'll see someone play like symbiote Spider-Man alone, and like you just know it's coming. Something's coming.
Hmm.
You don't know what it is. If you see it alone on 4, something is coming. Especially with Psylocke too. You could play symbiote Spider-Man on 3. Like awesome deck. So
Hmm.
I think that's it. That's all the spiciness we have for this week. Is there anything you want to say to the people before we head out, Tucker?
I wish you guys the best of luck on your climb if you've not hit infinite yet. Don't be afraid to try new things, but if you're trying to hit infinite as quick as possible, play what you're the most comfortable with. Don't let people tell you you're bad at the game because you're playing a list that's not a brand new list. Play what you need to play to hit infinite, and at the end of the day, if you don't hit infinite, it's no big deal. This is a game where not every single person hits the highest rank possible. It just matters if you're having fun. Play what brings you the most fun, and if you start losing and you get upset, please take a break, take a walk, and just try and cool off.
And speaking of rank, what was your rank when you reached infinite, Tucker?
When I hit infinite with Phoenix Force, I was ranked number 9.
Okay, number 9. He's being humble. Yeah. When I reached infinite, I basically just went back to Sandman because that was my comfort deck. Like I always go back to comfort decks. I typically don't play. Like I used to try to give like a run with a season pass card, but like recently I just been playing whatever that I feel comfortable winning with, and I might go back and show you guys some old decks and see if they're still viable. Some like Back to the Future stuff. So that is it for us this week. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching the other video too. I'm glad I have my hat back. And till next time, be safe, keep on snapping, and peace.